Monica.
And welcome to Baphomet's Cozy Perch. And today we are discussing Disney princesses versus Disney villains. Or I always hesitate to say versus. We're not doing versus. Disney villains, Disney princesses, where are they on the scale of good and evil, and how they're represented? So we're going to focus on 2 movies today because otherwise this podcast would be several days long.
Yes.
So if you want to hear more Disney princesses and villains, and there's like a favorite one that you would like us to discuss, please let us know in the comments below or in an email. Our email is always linked, and we will make more of these because Lord knows we could probably do a podcast just on Disney and it would last us years.
Yes.
So today, for those of you who are viewing, you might be able to tell which Disney princess and villain I will be talking about. I am wearing a shirt that says The Little Mermaid on it. That's my favorite Disney princess movie. So I will be discussing, we'll both be discussing, but my choice for the start was Little Mermaid.
Yes. I'm going to be discussing Sleeping Beauty, but I'll talk a little bit more about the princess kind of area that I'll be discussing, because if those of you who've seen the movie, good old Aurora doesn't have like a lot of like characteristics to go on. So, but we love Maleficent, so we're definitely going to discuss a lot there.
That's right. I forgot we talked about doing maybe even the good fairies for you
Yes.
instead of the princess.
Yes.
Yeah, Sleeping Beauty is a little difficult. She's asleep through a lot of the movie.
Doesn't give you a lot for growth or development.
The story's really not about her, even though it's titled for her, you know.
Yeah.
So what we were going to discuss today is, whether or not they're good or evil, or where they fall in the scale, and why people seem to love the villains so much. People love Disney villains, and why is that? And so we're going to kind of delve into that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with The Little Mermaid then. So I have loved The Little Mermaid since I was little, obviously. And I always viewed Ursula as the villain and saw her as completely evil, right? Mm-hmm. And then fairly recently, around the same time that we were starting this podcast, I saw an article, and I can't find the exact one. I don't even remember if it was an article or if it was like a TikTok video or who knows. I saw something that was arguing that Ariel was actually kind of the villain in the film. And I've seen other articles, several other articles, arguing that Ursula is actually more of a heroine than a villain for several different reasons. Each article that I've seen has actually brought up a different point. So when we decided to do this podcast, that's one of the things that was on my mind that I'd really like to talk about, because it did kind of change my view on The Little Mermaid. And so I'm really excited to kind of explore that a little bit.
For sure.
So, yeah. So, as we all know, Ariel is 16. She's kind of headstrong, and she loves human things, and her dad doesn't want her to. And like a typical teenager, she's like, I don't care what you want. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So she figures out a way to do that. And so she kind of, a lot of the argument is she changes herself, right? She changes herself to be human, to try to get with this prince. And in order to do that, she goes to the sea witch, Ursula. Now, in the movie, Ursula's backstory isn't really explained well, right? Because she's the villain, and Disney didn't really focus on the backstories of the villains, but they always have one. It's not like they're just there. And so Disney does have a backstory for Ursula. And the backstory is, and I haven't read the original Little Mermaid, but I'm going to, because I know that's probably something we're eventually going to discuss.
Oh, yes.
But I don't know if this backstory is the same in that one or not. But the backstory that I've read is that Ursula is King Triton's sister.
Okay.
And that's why she has magic, just like King Triton has magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
They both have magic. And he kicked her out of the palace because she started using her magic for more dark art type things.
Seems legit.
And that's kind of why she's angry and wants to get back at King Triton and,
Mm-hmm.
targets Ariel. So anyway, so Ariel decides to go the Sea Witch. Now, here is where the argument kind of starts for why Ariel isn't necessarily the best character and why Ursula may actually be kind of the heroine,
Okay.
if you want to say that. So the argument is that Ariel knowingly, and this is true, knowingly goes to the Sea Witch and signs a contract with the stipulations given to her that she has to lose her voice,
Mm-hmm.
that she has 3 days to get the prince to fall in love with her, and if those things are not met, she will go back to being a mermaid and belong to Ursula forever. That is clearly stated by Ursula in her song before Ariel signs the contract. And Ariel is not forced into signing the contract, right? I mean, she's heavily encouraged
Mm-hmm.
to sign the contract, but she's not forced into signing the contract. There's no magic used against her to sign this contract. She does it anyway. She does it willingly. So she knows the stipulations.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when it comes time for her to turn back into a mermaid and be taken by Ursula, right? As per the contract that she signed,
Mm-hmm.
she gets all of her sea friends and this human to destroy Ursula and all of this stuff, right? To get out of that contract and not have to actually belong to her and then get the guy in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the argument is she really a good character, right? Because, like, on top of that, she also left her family and all of her friends and everything, changed herself, physically changed herself to become someone else for this guy that she'd never even really met, that she fell in love with when she saw him on a boat, right?
Yeah.
Gave up her whole life for him, right? So, and then if you even wanted to get into like Little Mermaid 2, right? She even stopped going to, like, she didn't even have contact with her family for a while. She like put up a full on wall. Her daughter didn't even know she was a mermaid. So like,
Yeah.
is she the heroine? And see, this is what I like about our podcast is that we're exploring that gray area
Mm-hmm.
between good and evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she is definitely written to be the heroine. You're definitely supposed to root for her. I loved her as a kid. And she has a lot of admirable, redeeming qualities, I think.
Mm-hmm.
She is a teenager, so there's a reason for a lot of her foolish decision making, right?
Yeah.
But she does kind of straddle that line between like good and evil because yeah, I mean, I don't know, what are your thoughts? She does sign a contract.
I mean, first and foremost, if her case was put up in front of Judge Judy, she'd be yelled at by Judge Judy. So I mean, just like legally speaking,
That's so true.
like
You would be like, what the actual F?
she'd be like, "Listen, you signed the contract. You knew what they were. You knew what had to go down. And now you're trying to get out of your contract. I don't know."
Yeah.
So firstly, just like be careful when you sign stuff. But I agree. I mean, I don't think that she, is really, are any of them really good or really evil, but it's definitely like you can see both sides of how it would be good and bad for Ariel, poor girl, because she's like following her dreams, going to do what she wants to do, but like in the big picture, like should you really have gone super ham for this dude that like you just saw and was like cute? Should you really have done that? Like, I don't know. That's up to you. Like, that's your choice. But, like, then you got to deal with the repercussions. I'm just saying, you got to deal with the repercussions. And, like, that's so super cool that you have, like, the ingenuity to, rile up against this poor woman who was just doing her job. But, but I don't know.
Right.
So, I mean, are either of them, like, more good or more evil. I'm not sure. I feel like they both kind of danced the same line in that film.
Because the other argument is, right, like, it's not just, I use the nice word of destroy, like, she got Eric to destroy Ursula, but she really used murder as a way to get out of her contract, right? So,
Was that the right
right?
thing to do? I don't
Right.
know.
When you're looking at it that way, you are kind of like, "Oh." I mean, it is a little sketchy. And again, she's 16, and even though at 16 you feel like you know everything, and I think that is one thing that Disney did a great job with Ariel, is that, like, at 16, you feel like an adult. You
Yep.
feel like you have lived life, you know everything,
Uh-huh.
you know what you want, right? And then you hear adults constantly tell you, like, honey, you don't know what you want yet. You might. That might be great. Maybe you figured it out super early.
Mhm.
But you're still developing. There are still so many things you don't know. There's a good chance you're not going to like the same thing in 10 years. And you get so irritated hearing that as a 16-year-old, but it's so true. You know, like, I'm very different. There's a lot that's similar, right? From when I was 16. I mean, you don't change completely. I think a lot of people, their personalities are set pretty young, but you think differently and you process information differently and all of that. So Disney did a great job of that, right? Showing that, like, she was young and kind of naive and she thought she knew better. And I think maybe they were trying to show that she made decisions that she wasn't ready for. She didn't realize how crazy the repercussions would be.
Yeah, that's a
And
good way of putting
that's
it.
yeah. And does that make her bad? I don't know if I think that it makes her bad. I love the argument. I loved reading that flip side, right? That
Mhm.
other way of thinking of it. I don't know that it makes her bad, but I do see that it shows very poor judgment, and that she probably should have maybe had, like, a mentor that could have talked her through things a little bit better or something.
Yeah.
Clearly someone other than Sebastian or her father, because she didn't listen to either of them. So and you know, you could argue that that goes back to, like, her not having a mother, not having that mother figure there to, like, you know, guide her, and that kind of sucks. But she did have, like, 6 sisters, so, like,
Yeah. You know,
she's the youngest. Talk to your sisters. Say something.
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't
You
think
know?
that like not having a mom means that like you have to lack those things. I think that
Yes.
she's really just missing like a voice of reason amongst her teenage
Mhm.
angst.
Yeah.
So she's very yeah, she's trying her best. I think it's very interesting the Ursula parallel to like religion.
Mm.
Um, so I just thought of that.
What do you mean?
Well, like there were uh, two like siblings or like people, and they Ursula was like the sister, and
Oh,
then
oh,
she's
oh.
like
Mhm.
now like pretty much like the Undertaker and like taking on like
Yeah.
souls, and just like she's misunderstood, and I'm just like, wow, I never
Yeah.
thought of it like that. But that was off topic. I just like had that thought.
Little Zeus Hades
Yeah.
action there,
I was like, I see what
which is another great topic.
you did.
Hercules and Zeus and Hades, man. If you guys want us to talk that, let's do that, because that's a great duo to talk about. But so this actually does kind of segue a little bit into the argument then that maybe Ursula is a little bit more of a heroine than a villain.
Hmm.
And so a couple of articles have suggested this, including one that I read from BuzzFeed, which was titled, like, "Why Ursula is the Real Hero of The Little Mermaid."
Hmm.
And their argument kind of is the argument that I've read several times is that Ursula sees this girl who has a father that's kind of controlling, right? A little overbearing, and clearly isn't teaching her much in terms of um, things that she needs as a girl, right? Like we're talking about. She needs, like, kind of that mentor to sit down with her and talk about, like, feelings that are going on inside of her and all of these other things, and, you know, crazy thoughts and
Yeah.
all of that. And instead he's very much like, no, you can't look at any, you can't, in no human contact at all. I don't want you to learn about them. I don't want you to talk to them.
Mhm.
And that's just making the situation worse.
Yes.
right? And Ursula sees that, and you could make the argument that Ursula, in her way, was trying to help and teach Ariel and trying to let her have the opportunity to be independent and figure things out for herself, right?
Mm.
And grow. So that's kind of where they're coming from. Like, Ursula gave her a lot of great information. She clearly understood that, like, there's a lot of society pressures that come with being a woman, and she explains that to Ariel in her song.
Mm-hmm.
And you know she may have just been coming from that place of, like, what this young girl needs. She needs to learn the world. She needs to get away from a father that's being very controlling of her. She needs to figure things out for herself. So I'm going to give her that opportunity to do that. And so people are kind of like, is King Triton actually the one that's kind of the problem here? Like, did he kind of cause all of this? And is Ursula actually trying to, like, help Ariel by doing the things that she does? And, like, you know, I mean, there's the fact that, like, she clearly wants the crown too. But, I mean,
Oh man.
I don't know. It's an interesting argument.
Secret like alternative ending to the Little Mermaid. If Ariel didn't have all of her friends like help her defeat Ursula, she goes back to Ursula, and Ursula's like, "Just kidding. I'm not going to be taking your soul. I just needed you to learn a lesson."
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh,
Interesting.
dude.
Figure out what's really important to you, like, maybe help your father see that he can't just, like, control your entire life. And, it is a very interesting argument for the
Mm-hmm.
film.
That is, yeah,
And it gives a lot of meaning behind Ursula's character, I think, to think of her that way,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And she was technically fair. She did technically give Ariel very clear instructions, a very clear contract. She explained the whole thing.
Yes,
She gave her the option of signing or not signing. She did kind of play a little dirty.
yes.
The other point that the BuzzFeed article made was that even when King Triton tries to step in and destroy the contract, right? He tries to use, and that's kind of, they were kind of saying it's a lot of parallels to, like, male patriarchy and, you know
Mm-hmm.
things, is that here's this guy who rules the seas, who's used to pretty much getting whatever he wants. He has all the money, he has all the power,
Mm-hmm.
and so he thinks he can just destroy the contract and make it go away. And, like, how many times have we seen rich, powerful people think that they can just pay for and or do whatever they want? And I
Yup.
mean, a lot, right?
Yup.
So clearly, a little bit of a parallel there. So he tries to destroy the contract and he can't. And Ursula says the contract's legal, binding, and completely unbreakable, even for you. And it's clearly a little bit of a dig at, like, and they're saying, like, you know, here he is, the king of the seven seas, and Ursula's like, no, you
Yeah.
have to follow the law.
Yep.
This is a legally binding contract.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I find all of that very interesting. And so I feel like reading these different viewpoints
Mm-hmm.
has given me a new kind of shift on watching the movie and how I feel about the different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I still love Ariel, and it's still one of my favorite movies, and it always will be because it just had such a big part in my life growing up
Yeah.
and even today, I do look at Ursula slightly differently now, and King Triton and Ariel herself.
Mm-hmm.
I just find it really interesting. And we kind of talked about, why do people love the villains,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think this kind of shows you a little bit why people do love the villains, because there is that element of them being misunderstood, having been pushed aside a lot of times, having kind of the, you know, tail end of everything, the worst of everything.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see almost why they act the way they do sometimes, you know?
I mean, their struggles are relatable. They have,
Yeah.
I mean, they're always made out a little bit like exaggeratedly not human, but like you can still find the human qualities in them and relate to that. I mean, like some people go through things that are probably closer to what happened to a villain, what happened to a protagonist in the films,
Mm.
especially Disney, where it's just like, ah, well, I didn't really have that sort of life, but that person, like, even though they're
Mm.
acting a little bit irrationally, I feel like
Mm.
I relate to. And sometimes they just have a little bit more, like, flavor.
Mhm. Yeah, they often get the better songs.
Hmm.
Like, a lot of times the villains get the really great songs. I love Ursula's song.
Oh,
And
yeah.
even when I was a kid and I was, like, terrified of her, I loved her song. She has a great song.
Yeah. They're so
So,
catchy, and they get to sing in more fun keys than Disney princesses most of the time.
yeah. So, but yeah, I think maybe that is a little bit why people relate to Ursula because, you know, she's clearly been banished. I mean, even if you hadn't read up and didn't know the backstory, I don't even know for sure 100% if the backstory I've read is canon,
Yeah.
but that's what I've read is that she's supposed to be King Triton's sister. And even not knowing that, just watching the film, you know she's been banished. You can
Yeah.
tell. And she does, in her way, try to help people. You know, she's a little Alphabet-esque after Alphabet has like
Ah, uh-huh.
decided she doesn't want to be with the wizard anymore, right? Like she keeps trying to do these good things and it always ends up bad, right?
Hmm.
And Ursula even says, you know, she tries to help people fall in love and she tries to give people what they want, you know, like help them with their bodies and, you know, whatever else, but it never turns out right. And maybe that was trying to teach us that like there's no magic solution to your problems, right? You can't expect someone to come in and magically fix your problems for you
Oh, yeah.
without there being repercussions or without something else happening, right? Like there's a balance to the world and she's trying to help people and she's trying to give them what they want, but there's always a payment for that. There's always something attached to it,
Yeah. And I mean,
right?
even on a personal level, I'm sure the way that she's lived her life up until that point, she probably wasn't given the correct tools to be able to assist people in a way that it would actually like make a difference for them, without
Hmm.
those repercussions happening because she was ostracized. She was given, she wasn't given the help that she probably needed in order to help other people with that kind of stuff. So, from both sides, from
Hmm.
from both sides, there just wasn't hope for anything good to come of that relationship between people. But she's trying. She's doing what she thinks is right.
Right. Yeah. So she's doing what I think a little bit what she wished somebody would have done for her at some point,
Exactly.
you know? And yeah, she just doesn't know how to do it maybe 100% proper. I
Yeah.
don't know what the right, but you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so I find that really interesting. So, definitely all three of those characters, King Triton I didn't mean to talk about, but he kind of has to be talked about. But
Yeah.
all three of those characters are a little, on the inside of that spectrum, which is again the reason I love doing this podcast is because we're exploring that fact that like especially with something like Disney, you think of the princesses as being good and the villains as being bad, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Case closed. And it's really not. There's a lot of sides and there's a lot of things that maybe you didn't think about or things to be explored about each character that point to them not being one or the other and that's okay. And that's
Yeah.
that's a good thing,
Yeah.
cuz that's how life is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Oh, my stars blinked. Did you see that?
I did. I was like, hello.
They blinked. I
What?
don't know why, but there you go. So, anyway, yeah. So, I just found those arguments interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I love that. I love
yeah.
I love that take on forgot the name of the movie for a minute. The Little
Little Mermaid.
Mermaid. Because I mean, in my years of watching Disney movies, I can't say that that one's always been like my most favorite one. I've never like disliked it. It's just like it wasn't my top, and
Mm-hmm.
I like that a bit more. It makes me appreciate the movie more.
Yeah, see? So, yeah, and I find that now I have more to think about when I watch it. Like it gives me more to ponder. And that's nice cuz like you watch a movie for what, almost 30 years, you know? And cuz I'm telling you I think I've been watching that movie out of the womb. I'm almost positive. No, I'm not even kidding. I my mom showed me an old home video recently and I'm not even one yet. Like I'm still like hanging out doing tummy time, on my stomach and they have Little Mermaid on the T and I was like, You people started like they always tried to make it seem like I was just randomly obsessed with the Little Mermaid. Like, how did you become so obsessed?" And I was like, "You had it on before I could even ask for it."
You never
So
had a chance.
it's on film. It's on film, people. Did I buy myself an entire Little Mermaid bedroom set for my second birthday? No, y'all did. So,
Yep, that was you were set up.
see? Anyway, but so I've been watching the movie for so long, and my point is it's nice to get new points of view on something that you think that you know so well.
Yeah,
And now it gives me a new way to watch it. And I think that's beautiful.
yeah,
So, kind of exciting.
yeah.
So, yeah. So, all right. I think it's time to move on to Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty. Gosh darn. We that movie, that was one of my favorite movies, and just a little shout out. I think it started out as my favorite movie because my favorite things during the time when I started enjoying Sleeping Beauty the most was when people would make cakes in like in animation or just in things like Barney's birthday and Blue's Clues
Oh,
birthday, and then also
mm-hmm.
Sleeping Beauty. That just like inside of them they made cakes, and I was like, I love this. So
It's weird. It's weird that you mentioned Barney making a cake. I was literally thinking of that episode, that like movie or something. It's like an episode, or I don't even know.
it's just
But they made a cake.
yeah, Barney's
They
birthday.
made a cake to get. Oh my gosh, that's so. Like literally yesterday was sitting here watching. What was I watching? Sugar Rush. I
Ah,
was watching Sugar Rush and I was thinking of that episode of Barney and I was like, am I crazy? That's a thing, right? That was a thing. And I remember the cake looking like so freaking delicious. And I was like, oh
pink.
my God, that looks like the best birthday cake ever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway,
The
it's
pink
weird that
sauce,
you brought it up.
dude. Seriously, no. I think that's like the only Barney episode I remember because they made cake, and my brain was like, take mental picture.
That one and the one where they're like all of a sudden knights or something. They're riding horses, but the horses become like, and they go to a castle.
I don't got that one stored in my brain, but
They the horses are like attached to their bodies. They're like all of a sudden they have these little and they're all in different colors and they're like knights and they do the like dance around the maypole thing. I don't It's an episode, I'm telling you.
I
That's
believe
the
you.
other one.
I believe you.
Okay.
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 Anyway,
Sidetracked. Anyway.
Sleeping Beauty, Sleeping Beauty. Oh, okay.
So
So
yeah, making cakes in animated films. I totally get
yeah,
you.
that's
It
yeah.
was
So
fun to watch.
yeah, truly. So we'll get to that. But first of all, Maleficent is like my favorite Disney villain in general. I just love her. And might I just say that, and we'll go into depth about this in a moment, but when I realized that the whole reason any of the Sleeping Beauty thing happened, according to the Disney version, was
Mhm.
because poor Maleficent was not invited to the party. I was like, dang, this poor girl just wanted to come to the party.
Right? Like you literally invited everyone else, all the other fairies, all the good
Hmm.
fairies.
Like, what'd
She
you
was the
expect?
only one.
Like,
Yeah.
so backstory on Maleficent. I looked up, I've known about her backstory for a little bit, but I wanted to get into like even the newer movies where Angelina Jolie is Maleficent to kind
Mm.
of grasp the lore of exactly what she is. And either way, it's just not looking like great for her. And it's definitely, she's what and this exists in D&D too. She is
Mm.
dark fae. um
Okay.
so
Mhm.
obviously a part
Mhm.
of the fairy realm, but she's kind of a part of dark fae, which pretty much just means that as a fairy they kind of do things when they want to, and not particularly um, with the law, or for other things, or like for selfless reasons. It's just more for selfish reasons. So technically she's not really bad. Like
Mhm.
her being isn't bad. She just does things when she wants to. Is that like the best way to live? Sometimes maybe, but maybe not all
Yeah,
the time.
sometimes.
And then this poor lady, and then she's got like I think I read that the creators, when drawing Maleficent, wanted her to look like a human version of a vampire bat. So
Hmm.
she's got these horns, that look a little bit like demon like, and this whole black ensemble, and she looks spooky, and to the people who are like all bright colors and fantastic and sunrises and sunsets and woohoo, obviously
Mhm.
she doesn't look like everyone else, and it's definitely a statement that if you don't fit in, people might treat you differently, and they certainly do.
Mhm.
Now, do we know the entire reason that she wasn't invited to this party? No. But what do we know? We do know that as a fae in general, she's highly respected in this realm. As you see, a lot of the other fairies, like the three good fairies, are a part of like pretty much the royal court.
Hmm.
They are designated to take care of the new princess that was born to the king and queen.
Mhm.
That's an important role in their society. And so she is pretty much an aristocrat. She is of high society inside of this realm of living. And the audacity of the king and queen to not invite somebody of such high society to this
Yeah.
party, especially someone with such great power. Obviously she lives in her own stupid castle. She lives in
Mhm.
this huge great place. Like, she's got a lot going for her, and you didn't invite her. Like, just wondering what you thought was going to happen. Like, it's not like she didn't see the huge parade of the for Aurora.
Yeah.
It's like she
Yeah.
did not see that happening.
Right.
So I mean, I was just
Yeah, all of a sudden the entire kingdom is empty because everyone's in the castle and she's like, "Huh, weird. I wonder what happened."
but the not
Normal.
investigate.
Everybody's gone. That's normal.
Yeah. So like,
It's fine.
has this woman, done some bad things in the past? We don't really know. Like, why exactly is she not being invited to this party? We don't get to know that. But it's a little bit suspect that she's not invited. And,
Yeah.
was so she gets to this she gets to the there's a big fuzzy flying right in my face. She gets to this birthday celebration of this new princess, and everybody's here celebrating, and she's like, what the hell, you guys?
Yeah.
Excuse me now. As a person who has probably been treated, not like everyone else for their whole life, just like Ursula, been kind of banished and living on their own. Do they know how to handle these, anger emotions, and kind of do the like and talk it out as perhaps one might need to do, and be like, hey guys, what's up? But when you've been disrespected for so long, what do you
Mhm.
like? What's gonna happen? Like, you're not, are you expecting a peaceful protest of her not being in? No. Anyway, sorry. Um,
Yeah.
uh, she gets there, and she casts this unfortunate curse on this poor child, this unknowing child. Like, should she really have punished the mom and dad for not
Right.
inviting her? Yes, probably. She
Right.
probably should have done something to the poor king and queen, because they were the ones that didn't invite her to the party. Poor Princess Aurora was just there as a baby
She
being
was just born.
she was just born. She had no other say in it. Fortunately for her, she got the 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 punishment. But if she was going low, it was a low punch going for the kid. So there you go. So what happens is basically she's when Aurora, or Briar Rose as she is later,
Mhm.
when she is 16, she will be destined to prick her finger on a spindle and die. But the other good fairies are like, well, okay, because she's such a big, wonderful, and fantastical fairy, we can't really like counteract that completely. So she's just going to go to sleep when she gets her finger pricked on the spindle. But don't worry, she can be woken back up by a true love's kiss. And I'm like, could we have made it a little bit easier than that to wake her up? Yes, probably.
Yeah, why exactly?
Could it have
You
just
couldn't have just, if it could be any stipulation, why couldn't it have been like she'll prick her finger, she'll fall asleep for a day.
wake back up?
She'll wake back up, it'll be fine.
Or like if something needed to wake her back up, couldn't have just been like, wave a piece of steak in her face, she'll wake up, she'll have a meal, it'll be great. Why couldn't it have been that? I don't know. Anyway, that's another
Or like,
problem with the movie.
she'll fall asleep. If you guys apologize, let Maleficent know that you're sorry. The curse will break. Everything will be fine, which is what probably should have happened. The apologies should have been given.
And things could go back to whatever sort of normal there were, maybe even better, and maybe she would have been more accepted. But that's not the case. What I've learned, even from the Maleficent movies that are the live action ones, is that like she is a part of like the dark fae and like in the fairy realm. And when she is younger, she falls in love with the prince who turns into the king in the original story that we see in Disney. And then when to ascend the throne, it is his duty to chop off her wings to like
Oh.
kind of as like a
Like an initiation.
thank you. And then so she was in love with this guy. He chops off her wings, and then her plan then is again to kind of get back at them by taking their child. But by taking their child, she actually like really falls in love with the kid, not as like love, like romantic love, but just like has a lot of care for this child. And the child, it respects Maleficent as kind of their upringer and goes against, I think, the king in the end of the first movie. But it's very, very interesting. So either way, she's kind of disrespected and is not seen perhaps the way that she might be, because she has all of this power and all of these things to give, and no one's treating her the way that perhaps she could be treated, maybe based off just like first impressions or like the layer that she has at like when she first meets people. We don't really get to see a whole lot of like what's below that in the film Sleeping Beauty. So it's hard to know exactly in the Disney film what her real deal is below there.
Yeah.
So in my personal opinion, I've never seen her as like solidly evil. I've only really ever seen her as misunderstood. And that's why I like her.
Yeah. I don't know if Sleeping Beauty wasn't one of my favorites, so it's kind of flip-flopped. So I didn't watch it a lot, partly because Aurora was kind of bland.
Yes.
For me, and because I was that child that was more into princesses, I was like, this is boring.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like she's not only boring, like the prince is kind of boring personally.
Yeah.
People love Philip. Like out of all the like original princes, people love Philip, but like
why?
Personally, I think all three of the original princes are boring AF. Like there's nothing to you. Give me Aladdin. Give me a guy who has a magic carpet that takes me around the world, man. Anyway, off topic. But I think when I did watch Sleeping Beauty, I wasn't scared of Maleficent the way I was scared of Ursula.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what exactly that was, but I don't remember having that same reaction to her. It's interesting, even at Disneyland in the parade, right? Parade. In Phantasmic, when we were little, there used to be, I don't think you ever got to see it like this, but when we were little, they had an actual giant Ursula come out onto the waters.
Oh, okay.
And then, she was creepy. She even scared my mom. My mom was like, was this necessary? Like, she's like several stories high and she's huge and she comes out onto the water. So she's closer to you than any of the other like actiony things, right? Like, so Maleficent turns into the dragon and she like, blows fire onto the water and stuff, but she kind of stays on the island. And even though that's a giant, it's a huge dragon that comes out. I was never as scared of Maleficent as Ursula. She never gave me that same feeling, and I don't know if it's because as a kid I felt the same way, like maybe something in my subconscious told me that she was like misunderstood or something.
Mhm.
Maybe there was a part of me that kind of understood like, oh, well, she's upset, you know. But yeah, there just was never, I couldn't tell you because I didn't watch it enough as a kid, but I can tell you that I didn't have the same feeling towards her that I had towards Ursula. I didn't see her quite the same in terms of evil
Yeah.
scale,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, maybe it is because you everyone can relate to like being left out of something that you want to be part of,
Yeah,
you
that
know.
hurts, dude. Like that
Yeah.
hurts, man.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks to think you have a core group of people or at the very least acquaintances, right, that would invite you to something or at least give you the option,
Exactly.
right,
Mhm.
of wanting to go or not, and then to have them not even give you that option,
Yeah.
right? It does suck. And I think even as a little kid, you understand that feeling cuz even when you're little, sometimes you get left out of things, right? Like
Yeah.
kids are mean. Kids can be mean.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's experienced that at some point in their life, or most everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, and she, seeing the relationship that she's obviously has with the other noble people, does like would she have wanted to come to the party if she were invited? I don't know, but like she probably wouldn't have stayed for the whole time and like danced the night away. Like just invite Maleficent, let her have some chips and guac, and she'll go home and she won't feel left out.
or let her have the option of being like, I don't want to party with you people. You
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
like that's fine if she doesn't want to party with you, but give her the option. Jeez.
Yeah, but I mean, I think as like the Fae in the realm, it was kind of acknowledged that they each were supposed to give this girl a gift, and like the fact that they
Mm-hmm.
took that away from her, like, come on, like
Yeah.
if you didn't disrespect her, she probably would have given her the best gift. She probably would
Right,
have
because
given
she
her the
clearly
biggest
has
one.
right, she clearly has like crazier powers than even the other three,
Yeah,
right? So like she could have given her something really cool. You don't know.
like if it was me, I would have been like, let's just invite Maleficent to see what she gives our daughter. Should we
Yeah.
befriend her too? Maybe, but yeah.
Yeah. At least be nice. So, and
Yeah,
see, that goes back to the lesson like when you're taught as a little kid to just be nice to everyone because you don't know what they're struggling with.
exactly.
You don't know their backstory. Just be nice.
Just be nice, or at the very very least, civil. For those of our listeners, I would like to apologize. I have no control over how loud the lawn mowing and leaf blowing people are outside my apartment. It anywhere I go, it will echo forever. Well, that leads me to the fairies because, as we've spoken, unfortunately, Aurora is not a particularly large part of Sleeping Beauty, even though she is the eponymous character. She's the title character. She gets, she pricks her finger and is asleep for a lot of the movie. But I will say, as a decision maker, I feel like the movie gives her that unfairness of being hidden away and not given the knowledge that she needs to know, that hey, you've been cursed and are most likely going to be poking your finger on a spindle here in a couple of years, just so you know. uh,
Right, I never quite understood why the good fairies couldn't fill her in. Like I understand taking the kid away
yeah,
to hide her from Maleficent.
yeah,
I get all of that, but why couldn't she have been clued in on what had happened to her? And it just seems like a huge oversight
yeah, which
to like you kind of allowed it to happen,
yeah.
but is that was that the plan? Were they supposed to kind of let it happen, like even though they said they were going to keep her, like, I'm curious.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh,
I'm
which
curious.
that is it. That is a great segue. Yes. So she unfortunately doesn't get that knowledge and doesn't get the ability to kind of have more of a decision in her life. So she doesn't really have like a good or bad play in the movie, in my opinion. She just gets things that happen to her and then she goes to sleep. Um, but the other fairies are definitely an interesting other side of the spectrum to Maleficent, and they, as I mentioned before, get to be a part of this royal court, of this royal family, and get to hang out with this baby, of which they get to cast special little spells on. And then once this spell is cast on this little girl, it's they get the duty of taking care of her and taking her like out of the situation which she is in order to kind of dissuade Maleficent from keeping an eye on her, since that her curse is inevitable. So, what exactly did they do to help her in it is a very interesting point to make, because did they know that this magic was so inevitable that like doing anything at all would be kind of moot at this point? So did they just kind of like take her away from the palace to appease the king and queen, as if like we're gonna do something, and then just be like, all right, well, we'll just let her grow up and be a person, and not tell her any of this, and then just kind of let it happen? And if that's the case, does that make those decisions like good decisions? Does that make that a really caring decision? I don't know. Or were they so overly caring that they've taken her out of this and just kind of neglected to think that her knowing any part of her situation would benefit her and kind of keep her away from danger more than not knowing? And in that case,
Mm-hmm.
is that still any different than feeling neglected by your society? Is that, are those so different in good or badness, because it's just doing what you feel is right? So they
Right.
kind of live in that same place,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
things still happen. Now with Maleficent, things get a little bit out of hand, and she really is just kind of trying to dig it to some people at some point. But she's, she, in my opinion, she, is it right to go after and try and murder people? No. But I feel like where things started makes sense. But she's a
Yeah.
Disney villain, and she had to go for some villainous things. So
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say it's also a little unfair. Let's be honest. Prince Philip does not slay the dragon. Like, it drives me crazy that people talk about how Prince Philip slays the dragon, right? Kills Maleficent and saves Aurora, and I'm like, honey, were you watching the same movie as me? Because that was all the fairies. He was there so that they didn't physically have to kill her, but like he was basically just a puppet in them killing Maleficent. Like, they used their magic. They full on, that sword flew out of his hand directly into her heart. And they just were like, "You killed her! Yay! Good job!"
yeah, no,
Like,
not a human thing. That's not what he did. No, no.
right. So, and is that good? Is that fair? That they, I mean, in a way, used this situation to their advantage to get rid of a more powerful fairy, right? So
That's
that they
true.
didn't have to kind of deal with her anymore.
That's true. Is the whole reason nobody likes Maleficent in the first place to do with the three fairies?
It's very possible, you know? And I just don't, it seems weird that they use as much of their magic as they do to help Philip kill her
Mm-hmm.
and let him take all the credit for it still. It's just a very odd situation because you're like, why didn't you just do it in the first place? Like, why did you need Philip? You are the one controlling. You give him the shield, you give him the sword, you get him through all of the obstacles because he can't really do it by himself, and then you're the one who directs the sword into her.
Mm-hmm.
So did you need him? No. So you used him. I mean, I there's not really another good, like, I don't see another way to look at it other than they used him.
Yeah.
They didn't need him. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to be the one. He could have very easily waited up in the tower. They could have given him the signal like, "Hey, we killed her." And he could have been like, "Cool," and then kissed Aurora. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't have to be there to kill her.
Yeah.
They just wanted
Also,
him to be.
why did everyone else have to be asleep while all this was happening?
Mm, mhm, mhm,
Just
mhm.
like an addition.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. That's always been a little weird to me, too. That they had to put everyone else in the kingdom asleep. Especially because it doesn't seem like it takes very long in the movie. Like, it's not like it spans like several years in the movie before he finally kills Maleficent and gets to Aurora. Like, it's like a full day
Yeah.
or something. Like 2 days, maybe not even.
Yeah,
It's
somewhere in there.
not very long. So why did everyone have to be asleep?
And like they know that these fairies have powers, so it's not like,
Mhm,
you know, they're
mhm.
about to go do magical things that no one is aware of and like blow everyone's mind. So what
Right.
is it? Why do people have to be asleep?
Is it because they don't want the king and queen to know that they, in a sense, messed up and Aurora pricked her finger, like they didn't actually keep her from it like they were supposed to,
Hmm.
and so to hide all of that so that they're not hated now, right? They put everyone asleep, get everything resolved as quickly as possible, and then wake everybody up like nothing happened, and bring Prince Philip and Aurora in, like, look, they fell in love on their own anyway, and yay, and oh yeah, Maleficent's gone.
That's exactly what happened,
No one needs to know.
in my opinion.
Yeah. It's very strange when you
Yeah.
really break it apart. When you really, like, get down to it, you're like, interesting.
So
Interesting.
are either of them any like more good or more bad than the other, or are they just kind of
Mhm.
like dancing on their own planes? Because Maleficent was really just kind of doing self defense for some of it.
Mhm.
She was just like,
Mhm.
listen, I don't want to die. I know I made that little curse, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna defend yourself if someone comes after you.
yeah,
I mean, that's just the way it is. So, yeah, it's very fascinating. And I think I agree with you that she's just more, I mean, and again, this goes back to why we relate to the villains,
hmm,
because I think, like you said, it's exaggerated and everything, and it's not necessarily the way that we would react to things, but it's the way we want to react to things, right? It's our first instinct. It's what's in the back of our head of how we would like to react to situations. Right? Like, things you don't actually act upon, your impulsive thoughts in your brain. Like, I hate being left out of things. I hate not being invited to stuff.
yeah.
It really bothers me. So I understand Maleficent. I want to do shit like that. I want to show up to the party and be like, "Hi, motherfuckers, I'm here."
I
Didn't
curse
invite
you
me.
and your
I
daughter.
cursed you, and you, curses for everyone. Yeah, like, I mean, I understand you. That's that feeling of, like, it's not a good feeling to be left out, and
No.
maybe she's just a social butterfly like me and wanted to be part of things. She had FOMO, people. FOMO is real. Okay.
Truly, Maleficent is the picture for FOMO.
Oh, poor Maleficent.
Yes.
Yeah, I get her, and I can see why people relate to her, because it's true. She wanted to be part of the party and she just was left out, and she acted irrationally. But she has magic and she can act irrationally, and
Yeah. She
I
really acted irrationally.
yeah. So, but yeah, it is interesting. It's interesting to explore the Disney movies in a different way, the villains and the princesses, and talk through them.
Absolutely.
Not that I like dislike any of the princesses or anything like that. I still love Disney princess movies for what they are, but it is fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
As an adult, you see all the different sides.
You really do. And I'm sure there would be a lot of people listening to our podcast being like, "It's just a Disney movie."
We know.
It's not that deep, but it's fun to explore. And, it teaches us a lot about humanity, right?
Yep,
There's a lot to be learned from, maybe, like, dissecting things more than they originally were thought to have ever been dissected.
for sure.
So, but yeah. So, all right. Well, I hope you all loved that episode. I think that was super fun. I think that's the longest we've talked. We
Yeah.
talked for a long time.
Yes.
Uh, so yeah, like I said, we obviously only went through 2 movies. So there are many, 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 many Disney films and Disney owned films that we could go through and talk about the good and evil, quote unquote, characters and dissect their stories a little bit and see where they lie in the spectrum. So please let us know. Comment down below, send us an email, let us know what you'd like us to talk about. And we will see you next time. So I am Caitlin.
I'm still Veronica.
And thank you for joining us again on Baphomet's Cozy Perch. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.